This is chapter 2, section 4, problem 13. The numbers of regular sermon season wins for 10 football teams in a given season are given below. Determine the range, the mean, the variance, and the standard deviation of the population data set. Now, StatCrunch doesn't automatically set up to do this, so we'll have to do it by hand. It do the sample mean, but it won't do the population mean. So, but we can still use it and just uh, derive the formulas to get it done. So I'm gonna open this up in StatCrunch here by clicking on this button here. So you can see the data is there in StatCrunch. Now what I can do here is put it in order, put it in ascending order. So you can see it. So you can see the largest number and the smallest number. The largest number here, you can see it is 16, and the smallest number is 1. And we can also see how many numbers and how many are in the set. There are 10 numbers in the set. So n is 10. So the first thing they want us to do here is find the range. So the range is just going to be the difference between the largest number and the smallest number. So in this case here, I can do something like this. Compute an expression. And I can do this largest number. In this case, the largest number is what, 16. Minus the smallest number, which is 1. I hit OK. Then I'll call this the range. I hit compute. So the range in this case is 15. And the mean here is given by this form, the summation of x. Let me rename this here and call this x. The summation of x divided by n. How many n is the number in the set? So I can go to data again and go to compute an expression. Let me do this. How many in the set here? We have 10 numbers in the set. And I'll rename this n. Okay, so I have my n, I have this, it's the summation of the x divided by n, the number in the set. So I can go to data and compute an expression and hit build. So it says there in the mean has a sigma symbol for sum. So I go for my sigma function here. Scroll down looking for sigma. Sum. And then I hit X. I'm summing the X. Okay. Then I hit OK. And I hit compute. And that gives me the sum of X there. And so the mean is just going to be dividing the two. So go to compute expression and hit build. So I'm going to have the sum of X divided by n. And hit OK. And now here I'm going to type in the mean. And that's my mean. And I hit compute. In this case, my mean there, let's look at 7.7. Here, there's my mean. And then they start on working on what is the standard deviation here. Okay. So you need to complete this table here. So we already have x. We have our mean. So we have to find the x minus the mean squared. And then they end up summing it up here. So I go to data, compute an expression. Okay. So I'm going to have x minus the mean squared here. I'll have x. Let's see if I hit builds. Let's do it in pieces. So I'm going to have x minus the mean. Hit OK. So I have x minus the mean. Compute. So I have x minus the mean here. Then I want to square this. Compute expression. Hit build. And so I'm going to take x minus the mean. Then I'm going to raise it to the, I'm going to square it. And so I'll hit shift 6. Get a caret symbol there for my exponent. Then I'll have a 2. And that squares it. So I'm just going to square that expression. So it squared everything there. Then the next step is they sum this up, this result up. So they sum the squares, the difference of the squares up here. Okay, there. So they sum the difference of the squares up. So I go to data, compute, expression, and I hit builds. And I want to sum the difference of those squares. So I go to look for my sum function here. And there it is there. Sum of the difference of those squares. Hit OK. So I sum the difference of those squares. So what this does is it gives me the numerator for my variance. So to find the variance, you would take the sum of the difference of the squares and divide it by n. So we already got that sum of the difference of the squares. So we want to divide it by n to get our variance. So I'll go to data and hit compute expression. The sum of the difference of those squares divided by n. Hit OK. And that should give me the variance. And I'll call this the variance here. Variance. And there's my variance there. 22.01 gives me my variance. Okay. The standard deviation is just going to be the square root of the variance. So I want to take the square root of this result here of the variance. So I hit data and go to compute expression. Hit build. So I want to take the square root, so I use my square root function. So I look for that. There it is there. Square root function of the variance. And hit OK. And I'll call this standard deviation as space v standard deviation. And there's my standard deviation. I got 4.69, and they rounded to 4.7. And that's the end of that problem there.